It's inspiring to hear a leader who's into learning. It's what keeps leadership alive.
Directors Institute has helped me connect the dots from financial rigor to strategic foresight.
What's your switch off routine after a really long day? The laptop shuts, the meeting ends, then what?
Honestly, dance floor is my detox. I've been a student at Shamar Towers Dance School for over 2 decades now.
Wow. That's unexpected and epic. Not a combination that one gets to hear very often.
The CA exam is not a sprint that you run fast for a short period of time. It's a marathon.
Yeah. I guess there's still something about scribbling on paper that it still can't ever match up to.
Taxation has not been my strongest suits. In fact, till date, my own return is filed by my father.
You've led audits in one of the most of the influential sectors: banks, mutual funds, insurance.
Being a manager and then being a partner, let me tell you, the transitioning has been a sea change.
Satyam, IL and FS, DHFL, these scandals reshaped how we view audit.
People always ask me this question that despite having my own practice and a family-led firm, why did I choose to work somewhere else?
Audits often get seen as black and white, but you've shown how emotionally layered it really gets.
What I value the most? The diversity. Engineers, lawyers, marketers, they're all approaching governance from different angles.
Well, this is FaceTime with Leaders, one conversation, endless takeaways. Rishikesh Joshi's story starts now. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. Here, we don't just explore positions, we discover the journeys, decisions and values that shape leadership. Today, I have the privilege of introducing someone who stands at the intersection of precision, integrity and impact, Mr. Rishikesh Joshi, a chartered accountant by qualification and a leader in assurance by instinct. Mr. Joshi brings over 14 years of experience navigating some of the most complex audit ecosystems across banking, NBFCs, mutual funds, and insurance. But what truly defines his career is not just technical excellence, it's the trust he builds, the clarity he brings, and the calm he maintains under pressure. Let's hear from the professional behind the numbers and the values behind the verdicts. First of all, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Tanay. Thank you for such a wonderful and a very warm welcome. And these adjectives like integrity, trust, impact, these they come when you're entrusted with a lot of responsibilities, and you have no option but to imbibe these qualities. So thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be FaceTiming with you on this platform.
Lovely, sir. Sir, I want to take a moment to go back to where it all began for you. Not the titles or the milestones, but those early years when things were still taking shape. What was that phase like for you? What pulled you in, and how did this whole journey begin?
So I'm basically from the city of Oranges, Mr. Gadkari and Mr. Fadnavis, that is Nagpur. And I'm a third generation chartered accountant in my family. My grandfather was, my father and my uncle are chartered accountants, and we have our family owned chartered accountancy firm back there in Nagpur. So choosing chartered accountancy was very organic for me. I mean, it was not a very difficult question. What career path should I take? Of course, after my 10th boards, my father insisted that I should take up science faculty in my 11th and 12th because he believed that science faculty induces discipline, focus, and it makes you more logical. So, being the obedient son that I am, I agreed to his advice and I took up 12th science. And within 1 year of passing out my 12th boards, I attempted my first examination of chartered accountancy. It used to be called Professional Examination 1, that is P1 in those days. And I cleared in the first shot. And that is where I learned my first success story, first success lesson that success can be success can bring can inflate your ego, and success can also convert your confidence into overconfidence. Because as I proceeded to my next exam, that is intermediate exam, it used to be called PE2 back then. I saw failure. I experienced failure for the first time, and not just once but multiple times. And it also repeated in my CA finals. Of course, the number of attempts were fewer, but then I learned a very valuable lesson regarding chartered accountancy, that CA is it's not a sprint. It's not something where you run a few meters and win. It is basically a marathon, and it requires you to have values and virtues and qualities of grit, endurance, and determination. And that is true not just profession in your profession, but in your life as well. So that's how it began.
Very true. And across any field, I think what you just said, that it is the long-term journey, and looking at the longer picture that helps everybody rather than short-term goals.
Right.
Mr. Joshi, you mentioned you have your own family-led practice of chartered accountancy. Then what led you to be a part of another CA firm where you worked as an audit manager and now as a partner? Also, what was it like when you transitioned from being a manager to a partner in the same firm?
So I understand there are two parts to your question. I'll take them one by one. The first part, having our family-led, family-owned chartered accountancy firm in Nagpur. Why did I choose to step out and be a partner or be a part of any other CA firm? So in my professional journey, this has been my most frequently asked question, if I can say, and rightly so. So back in the day when I cleared my exams, and like I said, our firm is based out of Nagpur, and typically in any tier two city, the focus area of practice predominantly is taxation. At least back in the days, it was taxation. Now, of course, scenarios have changed. But when I started my career, I was ironically very uncomfortable with taxation, and I didn't want to have a career in taxation. So I thought that I should try something else. But having been born and brought up in a family which offered me a setup of a CA firm, I wanted to be in a sort of setup, a similar sort of organization where I would have a very balanced life. So I was very clear that I want no taxation, and I was very clear that I want to be a part of a CA firm. So what is the best option? So I will be a part of a CA firm where I am doing not taxation. So I think audit was what came to the rescue, and that's how I started off. I joined in this firm called Khandelwal Jain Company as a manager in 2012. That's almost 13 years ago. And then in 3 years ago, I was induced as a partner. I was upgraded from being a manager to a partner in the same firm. Uh, if to answer the second part of your question, the transition from manager to a partner, I would say there has been a sea change in my roles, my responsibilities, and even my perspective. The way I was handling things as a manager and the way I'm handling it now as a partner, it's a drastic change. Wherein as a manager, I was only responsible for one part of an assignment. Here, I'm responsible for the entire assignment, and there are many such assignments on my shoulders, and that's just the work part of it. Apart from that, I'm also responsible internally in the firm to drive and define the work culture. So it's important for me also to source good candidates, to train them well, to look after them. And that's internal part. As I said, externally I have to handle client relationship. I have to manage, I have to ensure that the clients are getting served with appropriate level of quality, with appropriate level of and appropriate size of team, so that the work gets fulfilled satisfactorily. Then also I have to be a part of various the professional bodies, and the way I was perceived as a manager and the way now I'm perceived as a partner, they're two very different. There's a lot of difference that I can see in the same. So yeah, a lot of I would say a lot of responsibility and a lot of challenges out there. And also initially, like earlier when I was just a manager, I was handling only say the management or lower management of an organization. But as a partner now, I have to handle the audit committees. I have to handle the board of directors at times. I have to interact with regulators at times. So yes, that's also something that has really changed for me completely.
Yeah, that would have been actually some journey, which you just said, from starting off as a manager and then turning into a partner. Big learning curve. Mr. Das, you've led audits across some of the most regulated and high stake sectors, from banks to mutual funds, often under intense scrutiny. In environments where both trust and precision are non-negotiable, what would you say is your core audit mantra?
So to sum it up, I just say that there are three R's that I follow. There are three R's, and this is something I tell even to my team members. First is responsibility. Second is risk assessment, and third is regulations. So when I say responsibility as auditor, you need to know what your responsibilities are. There are various stakeholders who are involved in an audit. Primarily, yes, there are shareholders to whose you need to safeguard whose interest, but at the same time there is a management which is involved who expects you to complete and deliver the audit on time and maintaining all the quality and all the standards. Then there is an audit committee, as I mentioned, involved. Audit committee expects you to assist them with by giving them your observations, your findings, so that they can fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities as audit committee. So it's important whenever you start working and whenever you start defining and devising your audit procedures, you need to first be aware what is your audit, what is your responsibility, whom are you going to report to, and why are you doing what you're doing, as they say. The second R, as I mentioned, is risk assessment. Now, there is a complete standard on risk assessment since, as auditors, we are opining on the financial statements of an organization. We need to ensure that we are minimizing the risk of wrong reporting or risk of giving a wrong opinion on the financial statements. So, again, while starting your audit, it's important that you factor in all those risks, you identify all those risks, and also look into what are the controls in place and check them really well when you are proceeding with your audits. And the third are, as I mentioned, is regulations. Now, as auditor, we are dealing with a lot of regulations, be like depending upon the type of the organization. So, for example, if it is a company, then there is Companies Act. If it is a listed entity, then there is SEBI LODR, that is SEBI Listing Obligations and Disclosure Regulations that we have to abide by. If it is a bank, then there is Banking Regulation Act. Similarly, depending upon the type of organization, the regulations also become applicable. So it is very important for us as auditors to know what the regulation is, what the intent and the content of the regulation is, so as to conclude and give a very standard compliant and a very appropriate opinion in our audit reports through our audits. So that's how I typically, that is the sutras I would say uh, for conducting an audit, broadly speaking.
That's some really good information, and I hope our audience is taking notes. Sir, you've led inspections on behalf of SEBI, a regulator known for its sharp expectations. What's it like to carry out inspections where the margin of error is minimal and the stakes are so significant?
So, on behalf of SEBI, we conduct inspections of mutual funds, which are regulated by SEBI Mutual Fund Regulations 1996. And these inspections, I've been very privileged to be a part of almost five to six such inspections till date. Now, why I say that I'm privileged is because for anybody, for any CA firm to even become eligible to conduct such inspections, there are very strict norms that have been laid down by SEBI. So, to give you an example, you need to have one company secretary in your team, you need to have one information system auditor, you need to have three participants in your team who have successfully completed certification on NISM, that is National Institute of Security Management, Security Markets, sorry, regarding the mutual fund module. So, these certificates, you should have at least three such members in your team. So once you comply with all these requirements and of course your past experiences and your overall firm's profile, then you are selected as an inspector. uh, to start with, I can share that there are three major learnings or three major insights which I would like to share with you. First is data handling. Now you are given a list of almost 200 odd checkpoints by SEBI, and these pertain to various verticals or various departments in the mutual fund. It could be compliance, it could be risk, operations, fund accounting, RTA, HR, it could be any such vertical. So you typically need to know which point needs to be reported where, and for which point, which department you need to refer to. So there is a typical terms of reference against which we map our requirements against each point. What requirements are we going to raise from which department with the fund house? Based on that, once we receive the data, we have to analyze that data, and then we have to identify whether there is an observation or whether there is a proper compliance to it. And based on that, then we go to our reporting part. Coming to the second, that is the reporting part of it. The report is also very comprehensive, very exhaustive. So how it works is, if a point is applicable, you have to give the full disclosure of the regulation and how it has been complied, and what is it that you have checked in that particular point. And if supposing a point is not applicable, you still have to give the regulation and you have to tell them why it is not applicable. So the whole process of reporting, and then of course you also need to have concurrence of the fund, the mutual fund also, which needs to be incorporated in the report. So there is a lot of to and fro happening. There is a lot of debating. There is a lot of discussions which happen. And also not to forget, this is a very time bound activity. Like, you are given a specific time limit within which you have to finish this activity. So your team size, your involvement needs to be accordingly mapped. And the third lesson, or the third insight which I can share with you, is uh, interaction with SEBI as a regulator. So typically, there is a perception that regulators are very hard to please. They don't get convinced very easily. But my take on this is that they are uh, being regulators. There's a lot of responsibility on them as well. So rather than being scared of them, or rather than being averse to them, it's always good to get aligned to them. So it's always a good thing to have an insight of what is their perspective regarding a particular regulation. It's always a very good thing to understand the intentionality behind a particular regulation. And being regulators, they are tremendously experienced and they're very supportive, very helpful. I would say my experience has been really positive with them. So as a professional and even academically, it's a very enriching process, the whole inspection.
That's some good information that a lot of us didn't know about. So thank you so much. So in your role as partner, you're not just executing, you're building. So what's your philosophy when it comes to mentoring young professionals and building a culture of accountability?
So I would like to answer this as an accountant, someone from an accounts background. The people that you work with, they at the end of their tenure, they need to become a good asset and not a liability. That is something I'm very particular about, and my leadership style is more of collaborative. I believe in being a very collaborative leader as a partner. In fact, I believe that every professional is different and they can bring something unique on the table. My role as a partner or as a leader is how I can identify that and how I can nurture that, for the maximum benefit of the professional also, and for the of the firm also. So as a leader, I abide by these three principles. Guidance needs to be structured, feedback needs to be real time, and responsibility needs to be progressive. So when I say that guidance need to be structured, what I mean is, when a new professional joins in our team, we ensure that we make them aware of their duties, their roles, and their responsibilities really well. So if at any given point of time I don't want a professional to be lost, he shouldn't be in a position where he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. So that an awareness is something that I ensure we induce in him once he joins the team. The second, as I mentioned, is regarding feedback. Feedback needs to be real time, so it's very important that and I'm not necessarily talking about criticism. Criticism can be given constructively also, but also if somebody outperforms or somebody does a good performance, it's a very healthy practice to recognize that amongst everybody. So that kind of inspires the person also and others also who are working with him. Yeah, as I mentioned, that responsibility needs to be progressive. So it's important that you don't dump on a lot of things on the same person in the first day when he joins. It's always good that you put in, you give him that time to adjust, you give him that time to align himself to the goals of the organization, to the goals of the team members, and then accordingly perform. So that's how typically I manage or I lead my team. And one thing I really am very focused about or very particular about is continuing professional education. So once you're qualified does not mean that you stop learning there. You need to constantly upgrade yourself, upgrade your skills, upgrade your knowledge. And without sounding very pompous, I like to lead there by example. So once I also qualified, I ensured I did a lot of certifications along with my core educational qualifications. Like I completed my information system audit. I completed diploma in international financial reporting standards. I also did recently. Completed my certification on sustainability and BRSR. So I believe that one should not rest on their laurels, and one should always constantly keep upgrading themselves. So that's something we encourage. I encourage to my team members immensely. So yeah, that's
Very
my view.
rightly said, sir. Especially with the growing age and how fast things are changing, if we don't upgrade ourselves, we can very quickly find ourselves, outdated.
Yeah.
So now let's shift gears. It's a quick rapid fire round, so we would like you to just say the first thing that comes up to your mind. Is that okay?
All right. All right. Yes.
Lovely. So your go-to comfort food after the audit season ends.
It is has to be homemade roti, sabzi, and dal. It has to be homemade and no paneer.
Lovely. A book or article that shaped your thinking recently.
So I read this article by Michael Jordan and I really liked it. You know, when he said, I don't know, the crux of it is that I can accept failure, but I cannot accept not trying. And I really liked it.
If not a chartered accountant, you would be.
I think I would be an event manager. I think, but although now the kind of craziness that I handle, you know, with my team, with my clients, with the regulators, with my other team member, other partners, I think I'm already one event manager.
Yeah. If you had 1 week off, no emails, no audits, where would you go?
Ooh, I think I recently have developed this urge. I want to go to Vrindavan.
Lovely. The most unexpected thing on your office desk.
So a friend of mine, we met at at a professional body for an event, and we used to argue a lot. So I was gifted with a caricature of Tom and Jerry. So we used to fight like Tom and Jerry all the time. So that was gifted to me. So I've kept that on my office desk, and I think that's really that's very funny. That's very
Yeah,
unique.
yeah, good memories.
Yeah.
G- Great, sir. Thank you so much for those quick answers. So, Mr. Joshi, you've interacted with a lot of audit companies in the past over the years. So, if there is a presentation you have to make, for them or put out some pointers, what would be the things that you would include for sure?
So for audit committees, when it comes to audit committees, it kind of sums up the entire process of audit for us as auditors. You know,
Yeah.
because we are taking our findings, our observations, our recommendations to them to help them give a comfort on the overall state of affairs of the organization. So, so the presentation that we make, we interact generally through in form of these presentations. Presentations should not be very snazzy or very fancy. They need to be very direct, very to the point, and very well structured so that the point that we need to make really comes out well. So some of the pointers that I can share with you, some of the insights that I can share from what we try to incorporate in our audit committee presentations is, firstly, it's always a good idea to have a well defined introduction. Now, when I say introduction, you need to give them you need to bring them in the context of what is your audit or what is your review all about. You know, what are the regulations that you have complied with, whether is it Companies Act, whether is it Banking Regulation Act, whether is it SEBI LODR regulations, so on and so forth. So you let them know about the context of the regulatory framework that you are dealing with. Then you also give them an introduction about what is the kind of assurance that you're giving, whether is it a limited assurance, is it a moderate assurance, is it a reasonable assurance. So that kind of, you know, brings them, you know, that kind of gives them the comfort and the context of the entire discussion what is going to be with them. Then secondly, what you also should do is, you know, you should describe in brief the audit procedures or the review procedures that you have performed. It could be analytics, it could be inquiries, it could be recalculations, reperformances, whatever audit procedures you have done. In brief, just mention them so that they have an idea of what is it that you've really worked around and how you've worked it. Then it's again a very good practice to declare your independence to them. It's always a good practice that you tell them that your firm, the partners, the managers, the team members, they're all compliant to the code of ethics laid down by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, wherein you are independent of the client. Then another good practice is also disclosing about your materiality levels. So what transactions do you consider material, what amount, and how have you arrived, what is the rationale behind arriving at that particular materiality. So that is something that you need to communicate well. Apart from that, it's also a very good practice where you tell them what are the representations that the management has given to you, and what are the responsibilities of the management. It's always good that you define, besides your responsibilities, you also define what was the management's responsibility. So you can kind of bifurcate and segregate them amongst the two of you. Then apart from that, it's also a good practice to tell them about the opinion that you're going to give, whether there is a qualification or whether there is any kind of emphasis of matter or any other matter that you're going to report that you're going to present in your report. And also key audit matters, there's again a standard on auditing that talks about key audit matters, which is applicable to some set of organizations. So if you have that also, you please, it's a good thing to disclose that and inform them regarding the same. Coming to observations. Now, observations is typically what we are discussing with the audit committees. Now, observations, you should ensure that you're not giving them trivial, or you're not giving them transaction level observations unless they're very material. So typically, your focus should be on the processes, on the systems, or on the policies of the organization if they need to revisit any of these. So to give you an example, if there is a process which is happening manually and you recommend that it needs to be automated or it needs to be system driven, so you can make such kind of recommendations. Or similarly, if the company is or the organization is undergoing a lot of say automation, so you can tell them that they need to come up with a policy of how are they going to capitalize all how are they going to capitalize all these softwares or all these systems that they are going to develop in future. And one very critical thing that you should also that so that's a part of observations. One critical thing that you should also incorporate, in my opinion, is an action taken report of the previously discussed observations. That kind of closes the loop. It also gives them additional comfort that whatever observations were made by you have been acted upon by the management, and they have shown it to you as auditors to your comfort. So that also adds on additional comfort to them. So this is what my experience has been when it comes to making presentations to these audit committees.
Yeah, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Um, Mr. Joshi, you recently joined Directors Institute. For someone with your seniority, what inspired this learning decision and how is it shaping your strategic thinking?
So Tanay, I believe in one thing, that we are students for life, and when it comes to being a professional, I believe we are always a work in progress. We can never be a finished good. We'll always keep on upgrading. We keep on updating ourselves. My experience in last 14 years has always been from one side of the table in a boardroom. Like I've always seen things as an auditor. So my perspective has been very unidirectional, if I can say. And I think after getting all the experiences that I've got in last 14 years, this is an opportunity for me to maybe look at things from the other side of the table, maybe see, to get a whole 360-degree view of the state of affairs, 360-degree view of how things really govern, how things really function well. Because ultimately, as directors, it entails a lot of responsibility, and directly or indirectly, you are you are kind of um, impacting the financial ecosystem. So it's always a good thing to challenge yourself, and elevate your progress. That's what I believe in, and that's why I joined in the institute.
That's a wonderful ideology to have. Mr. Joshi, thank you so much, not just for the insights, but the integrity, clarity, and the intent with which you shared them. You've shown us that leadership in audit isn't just about numbers, it's about value, mentorship, continuous learning, and so much more. So thank you so much for that, sir.
Thank you so much, Tanay. It was indeed a pleasure interacting with you.
Likewise. To all our listeners, if today's conversation gave you a new perspective on audit, leadership, or governance, share it with someone who can grow from it. This is FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute. Until next time, stay curious, stay ethical, keep building the future, and of course, have fun in your journey. Thank you so much.